Talking about Saturn in Uttara Ashada Nakshatra. Saturn is a planet of seriousness, focus, and commitment, and Uttara Ashada means later victory, where our victory is guaranteed. So check this out. So we're talking about Saturn in Uttara Ashada. Uttara Ashada means later victory. And it's ruled by the Vishwadevas, who are the universal gods. Now, these Vishwadevas, or these universal gods, refer to these literally like universal principles. You know, when you hear words like gods, you want to think of powers. That's really what God is. It's a power. This is why, in India, they have like millions of gods. It's like, well, how can it be millions of gods? Isn't there just one God? Well, yes, there's one source. But when they talk about all the millions of gods, the gods are the different powers. There's even powers to like make you yawn. And they call them Shaktis, like a certain type of Shakti, right? Like the Shakti to push things down, the Shakti to make things open, the Shakti to make things close, the Shakti that makes your mouth close so that once you yawn, your mouth won't stay open forever. And they're gods. There's a God that does that, right? So God just means power. So when we have the Vishwadevas, Devas is a word for God, or, gods. Vishwa means universal, Devas means gods. So it's really like the universal forces and powers that rule over this nakshatra of Uttara Ashada. And this is the end of Sagittarius, and where Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. Now again, this is very important to note and to understand that in Vedic astrology, all the texts, they say everything is pinned to the nakshatras, and then the Rashi is set in the nakshatra portions. So Aries and Ashwini are at the beginning. So by the time you get to the 26th degree of Sagittarius, you begin Uttara Ashada. And Uttara Ashada goes from 2640 of Sagittarius to 10 degrees of Capricorn. Uttara Ashada means later victory. Now, the later victories come in life when we bring those universal powers to bear on our desires, on the fruits of our labor. So again, it's a beautiful story. At the beginning of Sagittarius, we plant these seeds in the nakshatra of Mula. We pull out by the roots, we plant new seeds in Mula, then we nurture and water those seeds in Purva Ashada, which is ruled by the god of the ocean, Apas, which is about water, nurturing, love. Those are the early victories in life, just like the early victories in your life was how well you were nurtured, right? So anything that we want to do, if we in order to get a later victory, which is Uttara Ashada, we need to have an early victory. So the early victory comes from nurturing and watering the seeds, and then the later victory comes from making a commitment to that thing and staying with it. And that's what Uttara Ashada is about. It's one of the really powerful nakshatras, and the last degrees of Uttara Ashada is actually a portion which is called Abhijit. And so that's said to be the most impermeable, stainless, victorious section in the entire zodiac. But those universal gods and universal principles refer to things like time, which is Kala, action, which is karma, desire, which is kama, and our ability and capacity to make a commitment to things, and also including dharma, is another universal principle. These universal powers and gods and forces need to come into play if we're going to ultimately have a victory over darkness and obstinance and obstacles in our life. Early victories is how well we've nurtured that thing. We have to get some good teachings, then we nurture them, and they teach us and show us something new. And then we have to concentrate on them and focus to get a result. So that victory, later victory, is Uttara Ashada. Now, when Saturn is in Uttara Ashada, Saturn is also the planet of focus, duty, commitment. Most of Uttara Ashada is in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So there's a lot of this Jupiterian, Saturnian energy in this nakshatra anyway, simply because of the rashis where they exist. But it's really important to understand this crossover between the rashis and the nakshatras. And Uttara Ashada is where that hope and inspiration of Sagittarius becomes focus, hard work, commitment, duty, handling pressure of Capricorn. And this is where a lot of times there used to be a saying where the rubber meets the road. It was an old tire commercial. If you really want to see something and see where the rubber meets the road, this is where our victories in life occur. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm so inspired and yes, this is going to happen. But then how much do you really work hard for it? How much is it really connected to your deeper truth, which is dharma? Working hard for it is karma. How much do you put in the work? How much is it something that you love, which is kama, desire? You have to connect your passion. And how much do you do it over a long period of time, which is kala and time? Those are the four big ones. The four big Vishwadevas. There are actually 10 universal gods in this nakshatra. But these things show and guarantee our later victories. So again, when Saturn is in Uttara Ashada, particularly in the Capricorn part, it really shows a forbearance and a strength and a real passion, although Saturn is not really passionate, but a real sense of duty and effort and commitment to persevere and overcome our sense of immaturity. You see, what winds up happening, and this is a growth process in your life, everything that you've ever wanted, it started as some belief and some hope. Somewhere a seed was planted. Let's say that you wanted to learn astrology. First there was a seed planted somewhere where you saw an astrologer or you heard about it and something about it was very interesting. That seed was planted. Maybe it didn't go very deep though. It was just a sort of shallow seed was planted. We plant a lot of seeds. Again, but in Mula Nakshatra, we pull something up by the roots and plant that seed deep. Let's say at some point your love of astrology goes so deep that you want to actually do it for a living and read charts really well and really master it. Well, again, first of all, you need to uproot something else so that you have the time and you have the space in order to learn it. That's the beginning of Sagittarius. Pull out by the roots and plant seeds. Now, again, you might say, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to create this time and space to learn this. And then other things sort of take over, right? You don't really nurture that interest so well. So what happens, the seed just kind of stays there. Literally, when you plant a seed, you need to take care of it and get it to sprout and get it to grow for a while. It takes a lot of attention at first, right? But sometimes we don't have that. It's not something that we really nurture. But then let's say we do nurture it for a while and we're inspired by it and it starts to grow and it's like, oh, this is so inspiring. Okay, now you've planted a seed and you've even nurtured that seed, like maybe you're watching videos online or something. But that only takes you so far. If you want to really do it well, you need to get beyond just that, oh, this is so inspiring, and you need to work. You need to work at it. You need to work hard. And you need to take that inspiration from Sagittarius and work at it. Literally. Because what makes someone really good at something isn't necessarily that they're inspired by it. Everybody's inspired by it. But they've worked hard at it. Again, it's something they see the real truth in that thing. They're willing to work hard for that, to put in the time, the action, right? And really concentrate on it. So this is where, again, Sagittarius becomes Capricorn. And all those virtues of effort and bringing something into a concrete form becomes important. So again, when Saturn is in Capricorn, when Saturn is in Uttara Ashada, it really supports that process of taking something out of the abstract realm of hope. And then when that realization comes, it's like, oh yeah, if I want to do this, I need to work hard at this. Instead of having that defeat you, and instead of having you going, oh, but it's going to be so hard. Ugh. See, this is what makes people not very good astrologers, or makes everybody kind of students at a certain level. Because then people just stay with that, oh yeah, it's kind of inspiring. Oh yeah, I know this. And then we say things that are not really totally correct. We're just saying things that we've heard that make us feel good or inspire us. But the mastery and those who really know it, they've worked hard at it. They've gone that next level. This is one of the things I'm always having to get my students to do. It's like, yeah, of course it inspires you. And one of the things that can happen even with students, and it's very important because it starts in Sagittarius, which is the sign of students, is once my students start learning, again, the complicated parts of astrology, it's very tempting, rather than to sit there with charts and work through it and work through these techniques, especially when you want to do it precisely, not just a bunch of general ideas, but if you want to really do it precisely, you got to look at a lot of charts, you need to work through it, you're going to feel confused, you're not sure what you're doing. It takes work. Instead, they'll be in that moment and it's like, nah, let me just go look at this now. Let me go watch this video and I'll watch this. And I'll just keep getting these little hits that I'm looking for, something that keeps inspiring me and making me feel good. Okay. But if you want to bring mastery and really turn it into something, it's the Uttara Ashada. That later victory comes when we take it out of the realm of, oh, this is so inspiring, to this is something I'm committed to, focused on, concentrating my energy on. And Saturn, as the ruler of Capricorn, especially where most of the Nakshatra is, brings a lot of integrity into our actions. And Saturn tends to destroy things that are not real. Saturn is where time just sort of grinds over things, back and forth. Saturn goes really slow over the same area of the chart, back and forth. He's not in a hurry to just kind of fly through there. He's like, no, we'll be in this nakshatra for a couple years. We'll just hang out here, well, for about a year. Saturn will be in one nakshatra for about a year, right? And he starts it, of course, in the Sagittarius part, and when Saturn is in the Sagittarius part of Uttara Ashada, again, it's more in that sort of hopeful realm. But again, Saturn in Uttara Ashada is kind of shattering those hopes a little bit. It's shattering those illusions. Because again, when it's the Uttara Ashada in Sagittarius, there's still that hope. It's taking that hope into the next realm. So when Saturn is in Uttara Ashada in the Sagittarius part, it's still sort of hanging out in that hopeful place. The last 3 degrees and 20 minutes. But again, when he's in the Capricorn part and he passes over, then it's in that duty, focus, and commitment part of Uttara Ashada, where the later victory is guaranteed. And by the way, you should understand this. There's always a victory of one thing over something else. So this is something you want to understand. You don't fail at something, it's just something else is more important. So when I use the example of astrology, you know, I don't ever consider that my students are failing at something or this or that because they're not doing it. No, it's just something else is victorious. There's always a victory of something over something else. This is the thing to understand. And the thing that's winning over everything else is the thing that's aligned with those qualities of the Vishwadevas. The thing that is winning, let's say at the expense of the astrology or whatever it is, then you know, the new interest or the new seeds that you planted. The thing that does win over is the thing that you actually nurture the most, and the thing that you actually focus on and commit to, that's more connected to your desire, more connected to your passion, more aligned with your inner truth. That's the thing that's winning. And it might not be astrology. But this is a great lesson in winning and being victorious of one thing over another. Because we all want to win. We all want to be victorious over our darkness. We want the things that fill us with joy and love and hope to emerge victorious. So notice when you turn away from the fight, when you turn away from the battle and the struggle, what happens? Right? It's because you're not aligned with, it's probably not really congruent with your sense of dharma and purpose. Maybe something else is. It doesn't fill your heart with joy, that kama and that desire and that passion for it. So consequently, you're not putting in enough work, which is the karma, and you're not doing it for a long enough time. But something is winning. So Saturn in Uttara Ashada is a really good match of a planet in a nakshatra, where Sagittarius becomes Capricorn, and our hopes and inspirations become commitments and duties that we're willing to suffer for and work hard for, because there's so much joy and passion. Just like we're willing to suffer and work hard for our children or our family and those kinds of things. Again, that's why Capricorn has those qualities. They're very dutiful because they find that thing they love and then they work at it. Right? It's a real virtue of that sign. So I hope you enjoyed this. So talking about Saturn in